I want to preface this by saying I'm not someone who goes looking for trouble online. I'm not a hacker. I'm not some edgy teenager who thought it would be cool to go poking around where he shouldn't. At the time of this, I was 26, working in IT support for a mid-sized logistics company in Columbus, Ohio. I knew enough about networks and infrastructure to be competent at my job. That's it. This was 2019. A colleague of mine, I'll call him Derek, was the kind of guy who was always pulling you aside to show you something weird on the internet. Not malicious, just a curious, restless type. Always had something strange bookmarked. One afternoon on break, he told me about a forum he'd been browsing. Not anything illegal, he said, just strange. A kind of clearinghouse for odd things people had found or experienced. He said it lived on an onion address, which meant Tor, which meant the dark web, technically, though that phrase gets overused to the point of meaninglessness. Most of what people call the dark web is just forums with privacy-conscious hosting. That's genuinely all I expected this to be. He gave me the address. I didn't use it for about 3 weeks. Honestly forgot about it. Then one night in February, I couldn't sleep. It was around 2 a.m, my apartment was quiet, and I was just restless in that specific winter way where the dark feels heavier than usual. I downloaded Tor, pulled up the address Derek had given me, and started reading. The forum was real enough. Strange, but not disturbing. People sharing anomalous radio signals they'd recorded. Weird corporate documents someone had leaked. A long thread about a decommissioned military installation in Nevada. Normal weird internet stuff. I was actually getting tired, which was the point, and I was about to close the laptop when I saw a sub-forum I hadn't noticed. It was simply labeled, Listings. I clicked it thinking it was some kind of classified ads thing. People sell strange stuff on the dark web. Taxidermy oddities, obscure books, that kind of thing. That's what I expected. The first post in the sub-forum was a thread titled, House at the End of Trellick Road. $1. Serious inquiries only. Now, $1 for a house is obviously a joke listing or an ARG or something. But I clicked it. The post itself was almost nothing. Just an address, which I later confirmed was a real street in a small town in rural West Virginia, and a single photograph. The photograph was of the interior of a house. A living room, it looked like, though it was hard to tell because the image was very dark. Taken at night with no flash, just whatever ambient light came through the windows. There was furniture, an old couch, a floor lamp that wasn't on, and in the far corner of the room, standing completely still, was a person. They were facing the wall, just standing there, facing the wall, in a dark house in the middle of the night. I stared at that image for probably 2 full minutes. My brain kept trying to reframe it. Maybe it's a coat rack. Maybe it's a shadow playing tricks. But it wasn't. The posture was unmistakably human. Shoulders slightly uneven. One hip cocked just slightly to the side the way a person stands when they're waiting. Facing the wall, completely still. I closed the tab. I sat there in my quiet apartment at 2 a.m, and I told myself it was a prank. Someone's ARG. Creepypasta bait. All of those things were reasonable. All of those things were probably even true. I went to bed. I know this is the part where people expect me to say I couldn't stop thinking about it. That I went back the next day. But the truth is worse than that. I genuinely did put it out of my mind for almost 2 weeks. I'm good at compartmentalizing. It's something that served me well at work and hurt me in relationships, but that's another story. What brought it back was Derek. He found me at lunch about 11 days later, and he looked off. Not sick, exactly, but like he hadn't been sleeping. He asked me if I'd visited that forum. I said I had, briefly. He asked if I'd seen the listings sub-forum. I said yes. And then he got very quiet, and he said, "Did you see the thread about the house in West Virginia?" I said I had. He looked at the table for a long moment. Then he said, I replied to it. I asked him what happened. He said that within about 4 minutes, which he found strange, given the nature of the forum and the hour, he got a private message back. Just 2 lines. The first line was, "Good. We've been waiting for someone to come." The second line was his home address. His real, current, physical home address in Columbus, Ohio. He had never posted that information anywhere on that forum. He had made the account the same night he sent the reply, with a randomized username, connected through Tor on a laptop he'd never used for anything personal. There was no reasonable way that information should have existed in any database connected to that account. He moved out of his apartment within the month, stayed with his parents in Michigan for a while. He told our manager it was a family situation. I never went back to that forum. I never looked up that address in West Virginia. I made a decision, consciously and deliberately, to leave it alone. There are doors you can tell are wrong before you open them. You can feel it in the architecture of them, the weight of the handle, the way the light changes in the gap at the bottom.